Scenes at Draco Malfoy's house. New images from the Hogwarts filming sets. Portraits of the school headmasters featured more prominently, and all the latest news about the Harry Potter series that came out recently. Hey there, wizards. How's it going? I wanted to start the video by apologizing for being absent these last few days. Yeah, things have been pretty hectic. I made some mistakes. My little dog ended up passing away. I also traveled for work with the Orlando HP tour. Everything happened really fast. Everything was really rushed. Everything all at once. I had recorded videos, ready to be posted, you know? But the computer I took, the laptop I brought, just decided not to turn on no matter what. I even borrowed a computer there to try to upload the videos.
But the internet didn't help much either. I couldn't download, I couldn't upload the videos, and that's why you guys didn't get any videos. But those videos that were all ready will be released over the next few days. I'm recording this video now that I'm back from the trip.
Because, in fact, some of the news came out while I was on the trip, and that's why I didn't talk about them in real time either. I'm also going to apologize in advance for my apparent lack of enthusiasm. It's not just apparent, I'm actually going through a tough time.
I'm in mourning, I'm sad anyway, but I'm here doing what I love to do and doing my job, which is creating content on the internet.
So if I'm a little down, that's why. Well, last week these news came out, right? In the last 2 weeks, these updates about Harry Potter came out, and some pretty interesting statements from the cast. Locks Pratt, for example. He's going to play Draco Malfoy. He gave an interview. He's promoting his project, the last project he was part of, right? Which is Lord of the Flies. And then, in the interview, obviously the reporters asked about the Harry Potter series, right? And then he answered the following to 1883 magazine. I think with this adaptation, you can see much more than in the books. The books follow Harry's point of view a lot, which is great. And that's how the movies work too. I think Francesca Garner and Mark Millard have been very clear about this in interviews. There are a lot more things we can see. You can see all the teachers in their little rooms. You can see Draco at home. Yeah, I won't give too many spoilers about that, but there are some brilliant scenes at home where you start to get a sense of what he's like, because in the movies, Draco ends up being kind of two-dimensional. He's the snarky villain. I feel like there's a lot more there. You need to understand why. And you can see little glimpses of that in the movies with Lucius and all. And then, he also talked a little about acting alongside Johnny Flynn, who's going to play Lucius Malfoy. The set as a whole is absolutely brilliant. The vibe on set is amazing. Johnny Flynn is wonderful. He's a really incredible guy. I think we work well as a duo on screen. Or at least I like to think so. But he's a lovely person and has a lot of presence. In other words, some really interesting statements here, because from what the actor said, we'll have scenes with Draco and Lucius besides the one we were expecting, which was that scene in Diagon Alley, right? Something like that in Diagon Alley, because Lucius only actually appears in the second book. He's mentioned in the first one, but not by name. But Draco refers to him, right? Like, my father is in the shop next door. So, I personally thought it could be something like that, but apparently, we'll have more, much more than that. Scenes with Draco at home. Man, that's really interesting. We'll be able to see a bit of Draco's relationship with his father. I don't know if Narcissa will show up yet, or if these scenes will only show the two of them. I think it's probably just the two of them, and we'll get to understand more about the character's development, right? All the background behind why he's arrogant, spoiled, prejudiced, egocentric. He's a reflection of Lucius himself, right? So that's really cool because it deepens the character, because it adds more, Hi, my love. Are you having ice cream? That's cool because it gives the character more depth, right? It goes deeper into his story, gives him more complexity. Draco is already a pretty complex character, right? Especially when we follow him from Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince.
I think that's a point really focused on Draco. In fact, I think the series will be able to do something really, really cool with that.
Anyway, I got lost here because Katarina ended up coming in, but it's going to be cool. That gives it depth, you know. It explores more of the character, much more than the movies can explore. In fact, much more than the book can explore. The series will have a golden opportunity to explore these characters, beyond what the book itself does. There's a text about Draco on Pottermore, which was written on the old Harry Potter website, right? That was the old Pottermore.
It was written by J.K. Rowling, and it says that Draco trying to get close to Harry in the first year was an instruction from his father.
Right, that was it. There was a theory among the former followers of Voldemort that Harry could be the new Dark Lord, since he had defeated Voldemort as a baby and all. Of course, there's no basis for that, right? Lucius was just believing in an unfounded theory. But it's cool. Imagine if we see something like that in the series, you know? I think that's really interesting, really. An incredible possibility. And I'm excited to see more from several characters. Because if we're going to have this with Draco, you can expect that we'll have it with Hermione too, you know? Hermione at home, probably being visited by a professor since she's a Muggle-born, receiving her Hogwarts letter. But maybe from the Weasleys. And that's going to be amazing. It's a golden opportunity to expand beyond just Harry's perspective. Because the book is really focused on Harry's point of view, right? But things are happening while Harry isn't seeing them, while we're not seeing them. And the series can show that. We know that Hermione gets her letter from Hogwarts. We know that she's visited by someone because that's how it works. But we don't see it. We know that Ron gets his letter, but we don't see it.
So we'll be able to see these things in the series, and that for me, man, is really exciting.
Besides the idea of also seeing the teachers in their little rooms, like Locke said, right? The teachers live at Hogwarts, right? Hogwarts is a boarding school, so seeing them in their classrooms or their quarters, you know, where they sleep, where they stay, is really interesting, and I think there's also that opportunity. And there was also an interesting rumor, still in this context of going deeper and giving more context, exploring some characters more. There was a rumor from the insider Horcrux in the Pocket about the portraits. The paintings of some of the headmasters of Hogwarts, some of the former headmasters of Hogwarts, getting more prominence. For example, Everard and Dilys Darrant are two former headmasters of Hogwarts. Everard was the most popular, most beloved headmaster the school ever had. So much so that he has portraits in several institutions like the Ministry of Magic and St. Mungo's Hospital. And Dilys Darrant was a headmistress of Hogwarts, and also a healer at St. Mungo's. So she has a portrait both at Hogwarts and at St. Mungo's. And Everard and Dilys, they appear there in Order of the Phoenix, specifically in that context of figuring out what had happened to Arthur Weasley, whether he had really been attacked. They are the ones who deliver the messages, check everything that is happening, and confirm the story that Harry had told.
It's great they're already planning to go deeper, since there will be dialogue from these portraits with Dumbledore in the first season. This is just an insider rumor, nothing confirmed.
But it's nice for us to understand that this is a possibility. That's really cool, because they're already setting the stage for future seasons, you know? I think that the series has huge potential to cover a lot of things beyond the story. Like, they can focus on Harry's story, which is the main story of the book, but they can also explore other angles, make everything move forward together. That's really something, man. It's an amazing possibility.
Man, wow, this is making me really excited. Really excited. I know I don't seem that excited today, but yeah, I've already explained why.
That's the only reason, but I am still excited about the series. And the actress who's going to play Minerva McGonagall, Janet McTeer. By the way, I think it's cool that both their last names start with MC, right? And I think that's Irish. No, it's Scottish, and it's supposed to mean son of. Like, McGonagall means child of Gonagal. Yeah, McTeer, child of Tear. You know? It's a surname. That's what it means. I think it's cool that both Minerva's and Janet's names start the same way. But Janet also talked on the Pete McMurray show about her participation in the series. She said the following: "It's all so extraordinary that I can't even describe it. The sets are unbelievable. The costumes are unbelievable. The cinematography is unbelievable. The kids are unbelievable. All the adult witches and wizards are amazing. I really pinch myself every day." I would easily be Janet McTeer in my statements, because I think everything is amazing. I also get really dazzled.
And if she's saying it's unbelievable, that it's amazing, I'm going to believe it. I trust her, because everything that's come out of the series so far has been really grand.
The sets, everything we've seen has been really cool. Imagine seeing it all in person. Imagine her who's actually acting there as a character, you know? Like, wow, That's just amazing. And speaking of sets, new images have come out? Well, not that new. There were already some images of these sets, specifically in the early stages. But now new images have come out showing the set construction at a more advanced stage, including some of the Hogwarts grounds and a house there, which I really believe is the house of Nicholas and his wife Perenelle Flamel. These photos were released by the Daily Mail, and they show some areas outside of Hogwarts which are quite interesting.
In one of the images, we see a little bridge crossing over a small stream with a little stone path and so on.
And very close to this path, there's a tree that you can clearly see isn't finished, right? It's only halfway done, and it seems to be, I believe it is, the Whomping Willow. It's right there, look, right next to that little bridge. It's a really tiny stone bridge, you know? And it's there on the grounds. There's a wooden bench right next to it, underneath. And that path going down there, with some other trees anyway. Really cool. And the Whomping Willow looks pretty big, if it really is the Whomping Willow.
More images of the greenhouses have come out now, with a lot of vegetation next to them. It wasn't like that before, right?
A lot of vegetation, and man, I'm really impressed by how the greenhouses look a lot like the ones in Hogwarts Legacy. They're really similar. It's a giant greenhouse, huge. It's really, really big. And next to it, there's even a tree that looks like the Whomping Willow from the movies. But I don't really think it's the actual Whomping Willow from the story, no. At first, I thought it was from those images on Instagram, and I even said it looked like the Whomping Willow. But it's really close to the greenhouse here, right? So I don't think it is. It has green metal frames and glass all along its length. Really cool, really cool, really cool. And besides those images, there were also images of that kind of corridor with stones there, and a staircase, which is probably a part that gives access to the outside of Hogwarts. From inside to outside, right? Or from outside to inside. It depends on your point of view. It also really reminds me of the vibe in Hogwarts Legacy. And this setting leads to where the Whomping Willow is. What is probably the Whomping Willow? You can see it there in the corner, in the lower left corner. You can see the tree there, halfway done, right? It hasn't been finished yet. Coming out of that structure with the staircases, corridors, and so on, and that little stone path with that bridge. Really cool. That path could probably also lead to Hagrid's hut. I don't know. We still don't know yet.
But something really cool that came out in these new images. Also this staircase, which I think is probably a connection to the outside of the castle, coming from inside Hogwarts Castle to the gardens.
And then there's a staircase that also really resembles that staircase before the Great Hall in Hogwarts Legacy. It has a big Hogwarts crest. Really huge. It really looks a lot like it if you put them side by side, Eric. It really does. And then you see there's a fountain there. A little fountain, a little bridge, the stairs, and in the gardens, you see something really cool. There are the house animals shaped as bushes, right? They're bushes shaped like the house animals. We have a lion and a badger facing each other. An eagle representing Ravenclaw House, and not a raven like in the movies. An eagle. Finally here an eagle representing Ravenclaw House. And a serpent over there, representing Slytherin. Right, Slytherin here in the other corner. Man, this is really cool, because it really reminds me of the video games or PC games based on the movies, you know? The games Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner. From the first to the last game, there were some side quests. I can't recall if they were in Prisoner of Azkaban, Order of the Phoenix, or Half-Blood Prince, but in one of those, there's a side quest that you do there, and then it reveals these animals in the house bushes. That's a really cool reference, man. Really cool, really cool. You can see that they're working carefully on these details, paying attention to these things, and paying tribute to things, you know? It's not like that. I see a lot of people. Even today, I replied to a comment on Twitter from someone who said, "Oh, I think this series is disrespectful to the actors who have already passed away, or they want to erase the movies." It's nothing like that. You can really see that they're paying tribute to some things, you know? Things that are in the games, you get it? So I really don't think that's the case. I don't think so, honestly, man. I don't think that's the case. The movies will always be there. They'll never be erased. There's no disrespect to any actor, because the actors were just doing their job. They're not the owners of the characters, you know? They're not. You can forgive me if you're a fan of any of those actors. I have a lot of affection for all the actors who took part in Harry Potter. I'll always admire them for their roles in the movies. But the roles weren't theirs. They weren't the owners of the roles, you know? So, I think it's possible to honor their legacy and their memory without having to be so radical. Anyway, there are the animals from the houses, right? That made me really happy. Really. I thought it was really cool, man. And this structure is beautiful, right? It's beautiful. I believe that I really see this here as the front entrance of Hogwarts Castle, you know? Like, this is the front garden of the castle. For me, that's exactly what it is. For me, it's mainly the front garden of the castle. They're just building parts here, not the whole castle or anything like that. It's just a part here, right? That's how filming works. That's really cool. Really, really cool. And here we have the house, right? This little house here.
It's a little house with stone walls and all that.
And I think this house belongs to the Flamel family, because if you notice there on the right side of the house, Flamel's house, supposed Flamel's house, there's a little fence. There's a tree there. There's a little fence with a small gate. A fence that's a bit lower than the wall, and a small gate.
And this really reminds me of the little gate with the fence that was set up during the beach filming. It's where Dumbledore walks through it.
So that's why I believe it's the same place, you know? They took the little gate there to film at the beach. And it's the part that's in this house here, look. At least it really looks like it.
So I really believe this is the residence of Nicholas Flamel and his wife Perenelle. They're confirmed. They're going to appear in the first season of Sorcerer's Stone.
Another cool thing too, another story being expanded, other characters being explored in more depth.
Which are Nicholas and his wife, who are only mentioned in the book, but this time we're going to see them. We know that Dumbledore talks to him. We know that Dumbledore is a great friend of both of them.
But we're going to see that happening, and that's really, really cool. I think those are the images that have come out recently. There haven't been any more, and I know that with this, maybe you have. Maybe you're wondering, right?
Wow, when is this series coming out? I need it soon. I'm anxious. When will it air?
Well, for our happiness, or for the sadness of those who are anxious, Casey Bloys, who is the CEO of HBO, has now confirmed that the series will premiere at the beginning of 2027. Before, there were only rumors about this, right? Now he really confirmed that it's official. At the beginning of 2027, without giving a specific date. And the beginning of 2027 means the first 3 months, right? After that, it's no longer the beginning. After the third month, like 4, 5, 6, it's already halfway through the year. So the first 4 months are the first third of the year, right? Let's put it that way.
So the release date is between January and April.
I would guess it's around the end of January, or maybe at the beginning of March. One of those 2 dates. I could be completely wrong, and that's just my own guess. But it's at the beginning of 2027. Besides that, another piece of information about the series that came out recently. Actually, it wasn't official information. The one who posted it was the Profile Redentor. That profile man has already posted a lot of accurate stuff. Really a lot. And he said that Benjamin Caron is going to direct some episodes of the first season, along with Mark Millard, right? That's very common in series, because there are usually several directors. It's normal. Benjamin worked on Andor. He also worked on The Crown. So, like, he's a big name, you know, a big name. You can see there's a certain connection between the professionals there. Who worked on some productions together, right? Adriano Goldman, who's the director of photography for some of the episodes. He also worked on Andor. He also worked on The Crown. So you see that they're pulling from a very specific circle of crews. And there are big names behind this series. That's why I'm very confident, you know. It's a super competent production, really. So I'm really looking forward to seeing everything they're going to do. And finally, to wrap up, to leave us wanting more, you know. The head of the streaming division at Warner Brothers Discovery stated the following: "It will certainly be the biggest streaming event in HBO's history, and possibly in the entire history of streaming. It will be the event of the decade. There's no other series that comes close to this. Man, it will be the event of the decade. There's no other series that comes close to this." The guy said that he's really confident, because, you know, he's the boss, the head of streaming, of the streaming division. When a guy like that makes a promise, it's something big. If he says something and doesn't deliver, it looks bad. So he really stood by his words, saying it's the event of the decade. I'm sure it's going to be really huge. Anyway, those were the latest details about the Harry Potter series. I hope you enjoyed finding out about it. Tell me down below what your expectations are, what you thought about each of these updates. If you liked them, if you didn't, what you have to say about it. Feel free, the comment section is there for you, as long as you use it respectfully with me and with everyone else. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for following Calderon Furado, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, mischief managed.